Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the colloquium. Thank you for coming along. I'm looking at Indigenous knowledge and how that could be enhanced using participatory video. So the title that you can see, Scaling Up and Scaling Out of Indigenous Knowledge, and it's for encouraging community participation. I'll start by just looking at the overview of what window I'm using to look at participatory video, because I'm looking at agricultural indigenous knowledge. So the framework under which this participatory video is used would be to do with agricultural knowledge and information system for rural development. And within that framework, you're looking at linkages or connection between different groups of people. That would be maybe the agricultural education, could be extension, could be research, and obviously the farmers have to be a part of this framework. So the project that I've been working on for the last 4 months here has been looking at developing some maybe training material on the use of participatory video that I could use with farmers. And there are a couple of reasons why I wanted to do that. It would be educational in that a lot of rural communities need or require material to do with different aspects of agriculture, and a lot of times there's very little information in very remote communities for obvious reasons, because they are very isolated and it's difficult for access from the communities or into the communities. So it's educational in that the people can be able to produce their own material for use within the community and when needed with outside organizations. It's also for cultural preservation. Later on I'll touch on the need for cultural preservation and how I got to doing that in agriculture. It is important for cultural preservation because it acknowledges the value of people's belief system in introducing new information or ideas into the community. Third, it's capacity building. When it comes to electronic or digital media in communities, especially communities like the one in Papua New Guinea where I work, there is very little skills in using electronic media. So it's capacity building to some extent because you're training people to use the video themselves. An introduction to the community through photographs. From the top left-hand corner, there's no electricity in that community to start with. And on the top right-hand corner, a lot of work is still being done by women, and women are the ones who are thought to be, in a lot of agricultural literature, who are thought to be the ones who carry the bulk of the load for food security in households. So a lot of work in this community is still done by women, although there are some changes now. There's a lot of education that's been, or awareness that's been done in communities. So men in these communities are also doing some of the household activities, but it's still mainly the women who do it. And the bottom right-hand corner, there's lack of information over here. So when you have taro leaf blight in communities like this, they would know what it is, and they'll need information, but information is limited. There are resource centers. There are many efforts that have already been done by agricultural research organizations and also by non-government organizations. A lot of church-based organizations have also done work in getting information into the communities, but somehow that has some limitations in how it's used. So a lot of information on pest and disease in agriculture or care or health for livestock, people still need a lot of that information. And because of the difficulties in access, people are made to resort to making their own innovative ways of surviving. And what you see at the bottom right-hand corner is a rice mill that this community has made. They make, there's a farmer there who makes the meals from readily available resources, and they're able to use this to mill, because to take rice out of the community is expensive, and it takes, access is just difficult to get through. And even if you do get to take the rice out of the community, you need to pay for transport. You need to pay for the milling cost of rice before the farmer actually benefits from it. So a lot of the photographs you'll be seeing will be to do with rice farmers, because I work with rice farmers, because in Papua New Guinea there's a lot of efforts on grain, produce, agricultural produce, because of the fact that it can be stored, and perhaps with climate changes and the risks associated with it, grains are probably going to be stored longer. So there's the drive to introduce rice to people, but these people have traditionally not planted rice, so it is an introduced crop. So I hope that through the use of participatory video and indigenous knowledge on pest and disease and other things to do with rice productivity, we're able to encourage farmer participation. The background to this, that's the community. Background to how I got around to doing participatory video. This is something that the community wanted. I did some studies for my PhD, and I worked with these farmers, and we looked at a lot of agricultural issues, but I realized in the long run, it's not only about agricultural technology and how farmers can adapt it, it's more about their livelihood. How does this technology change them or their lives for the better? And so we looked at some of the things they suggested to me were this plan that they have. They wanted cultural preservation, because a lot of young people were losing that link to community way of living through the traditional Melanesian way, where families are very closely knitted. Children listen to parents. There's that respect, more than just listening, it's that respect between the elders in the community and the young people. And there is that social order when there was that respect. But because of the decline in a lot of traditional values, elders thought that this respect has declined, and so they related that to a lot of social disorder that goes on in the community. So they wanted cultural preservation, they wanted to look at environmental issues, management of environment, and to look at how best to have market access for the produce that they were having. They have cash crops, they have food crops. Food crops are usually just sold by the roadside or next to the village or to the neighboring village. If they're able to, they take it to the markets in town. For the cash crops, that has to be taken to the markets in town, and sometimes the sheer weight of taking that, say coffee or cocoa, to the market is difficult. So this is something that they wanted to do. And one of the things they wanted to do with cultural preservation in relation to agriculture was to use, later on I'll show you the pictures, use a local drum called the garamut to make decode and encode messages. That is a skill that's been lost very fast in the community, and in this community where I worked in the Barogam community of the Madang province, that skill was only with 3 elders.